So we will be talking about the art of cybersecurity because it's truly an art form. Some of you were here for the Sentinel session just a few minutes ago, and you understand how much ingenuity it requires to drive a SOC. So it's really an art form. And I will be presenting for you today. My name is Simon. I've come here from Sweden because I just love the UK. I've been missing this country immensely over the last months, and it's fantastic to be here again. Enterprise Mobility MVP, I do speak quite a lot and quite fast, which is something I will need for today. But at any point, if I speak too fast, just tell me and I will slow it down. You can follow me on Twitter, and you can also, again, get your wristbands and listen to a fantastic podcast I say to myself, Immediately Tech. Thank you to all the sponsors. I think I'm supposed to name these, so Hitachi, Ops, Docs42, Hancock and Parsons, Curatrix, Ingram, Solgari, Continent Cloud, and Vonage. Sorry for mispronouncing every single one of them, but we are very happy that they are here, as well as all of these, which I won't pronounce today. We are not at war, but we are not at peace either. That was a quote at a session yesterday with the Swedish intelligence service that I attended. And I think that's true for the world. We're not at war, but we're certainly not at peace. We're under attack every single day by countries, by criminals, and sometimes by unhappy administrators. We're at this stage. It's slowly starting to burn. We know that when this really starts to impact critical infrastructure, we need to be prepared. Because it's turning into this. I don't know if you have seen a movie called Fire Sale or heard of the concept. That's when the finances across the globe breaks. There's, I think, it's still ongoing, an incident in Sweden currently for small shareholders across Sweden where the financial institution that holds all of their assets have been attacked and their money is freezed. They can't do anything. But we're here today to learn the art of war is to defeat your enemies without fighting with them. Because the best thing we can do is to be prepared. If your organizations are strong enough to withstand an attack, the likelihood of you getting attacked is lowered quite significantly. And I'm very sad to tell you that there is only one kind of organizations that do not get attacked by cyber criminals. That's organizations that go bankrupt. Every single organization that makes any kind of profit is a target. And I hope that all of your organizations make some kind of profit or supports the society in other ways. We are here to talk about the protection, the detection, and the response to cyber attacks. These are the pillars on which Microsoft creates their offerings. So we need to create a strong defense. We need to be prepared. We need to raise our walls. We also need to be able to detect whoever tries to get over those walls. And we then need to respond. We're not talking about attacking them back. We're talking about defending our organizations. And if we are not, or if we are unable to do either of these three, we will most certainly lose the fight against cyber criminals. And this is the second quote, I have quite a few of them, from this book. It actually travels around the globe with me, or used to. It's The Art of War by Sun Tzu. It's around 1,000 years old, but it's still really vital to understand some of these concepts. And it actually applies to a lot of other things than war and cybersecurity as well. Because we're at this stage, whoever is first in the field and awaits the coming of the enemy will be fresh for the fight. Whoever is second in the field and has to hasten to battle will arrive exhausted. If we are not prepared, it will be a quite tough fight to get back on track and be able to defend once the enemy is already there. If we are prepared, if we have trained ourselves, we will be much more successful. And it will, unfortunately, be part of our day-to-day operations. So it takes time to build this. It takes time to build the defense. And we need to start now, not when you know you're attacked, because the likelihood of you already being under attack is quite high. So today, we'll start looking at, you need to realize what you have. I meet so many organizations that have owned licenses for years in terms of Microsoft 365 and haven't implemented them. You have the defenses needed. Learn how to use Microsoft 365 security solutions, and this isn't necessarily a technical session, but I will explain the concepts of adding these to your cyber defense. And understand the value of strategy, because you don't know how and which tools to apply at which certain point in time, you will also use. You can have all the cool things in the world, but if you realize one day, oh wait, I need to use this, and you don't know how, you could probably have saved quite a lot of money on those licenses. The strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. We can't focus on technology alone. We also need to understand in which order to use them, how they integrate, and what will be your primary source of defense against whoever tries to attack you. Let's start with protect. We will have to know ourselves. This is probably the most famous quote from this book. I'm sure you've heard the next one. We'll look at how to find your weak spots and how to patch those weak spots. Just see some. No, I'm not getting ahead of myself for once. I will let you read this instead of reading it to you, but I think many of you have heard about this. So it's about not just focusing on who is trying to attack you. It's also about understanding your own organization. We'll get back to that with other quotes later. So the first thing you need to understand is what you have. I'm a very, very odd person, and I will now explain to you why. I love Microsoft licenses. I'm probably the only person in the world who loves Microsoft licenses. But I can actually look at these diagrams and oh, they are beautiful. But this is what many of you already own. Regardless if you're on a business premium SKU or an E SKU or an A SKU, you have all of these capabilities at your hands. But so few organizations have really embraced all of these. This page is taken from a GitHub repository that Aaron Dinage from Australia, I think, updates on a regular basis. And you can get to the site by scanning this QR code, if you so. But that's a fantastic resource for you to understand Microsoft license, regardless if it's security, productivity, or any kind of solution within Microsoft 365. And it's absolutely free, which is not that common with Microsoft things. We're not fit to lead an army on the marsh unless we're familiar with the face of the country. It's mountains and forests, it's pitfalls and cities. Sorry for that. I'm Swedish, remember that? It's marshes and swamps. So when we have looked at what we have, we also need to realize that most organizations consists primarily of swamps. Within Microsoft Defender 365, Microsoft 365 Defender, we have the ability to look into our entire estate and realize where do we need to focus our security work. Use this. It's a perfect step-by-step guide on how to secure your infrastructure. But also realize when these recommendations aren't appropriate for you. As an example, if you were to follow every single step of the way through the threat and vulnerability management for Windows, you would then turn off PSXSec as well as WMI. If you use Config Manager, that would break it all. So you need to understand why to do certain things. But use TDM. It's the perfect opportunity for you to do that, and you don't have to buy third-party solutions to get it. A huge challenge that we have every single day is this. If the enemy leaves a door open, you must rush in. This is not for you. This is the way attackers work. Does anyone know how long it takes from at the point where a 0-day vulnerability is released until there are basically run books on how to exploit it online, where anyone who knows how to Google can use them against you? In general.
5 minutes.
Yeah, sometimes 5 minutes. In general, we usually say 24 hours. Then you have a guaranteed exploit that anyone can use. I meet organizations that have a 30 or 90-day patch cycle for their Windows machines. Come on. We need to be much faster than that. Especially with 0 days, and that's something I really like with expedited patches within Microsoft Intune or Microsoft Endpoint Manager. Do have a process for how to patch your entire application, systems, devices, doesn't matter. You should always aim to patch everything within 72 hours from a patch is released. And that is possible. I know every one of you looks, now. I know organizations that have a 24-hour patch cycle for every single thing. It's costly in the beginning, but you also gain quite a lot from it. So patch quicker, because as soon as you're vulnerable, someone will exploit it. So once we have built our defenses, it's time to detect. I heard the last bit of the session here before me. Fantastic, well done, both of you. When it comes to detection, we need to lead by example and try to avoid getting breached. We need to distribute the responsibility and always assume breach. Because this is the hardest bit for us in this room. If your mind is willing to do something, then your body will move forward without anything. The challenge is that we are very, very good at telling our users what they should do and that they need to be cautious about getting exploited or phished. In the majority of the cases, who gets attacked? It's not the users, it's you, it's the admins. And I don't know how many organizations I've seen which thinks that, well, I have MFA on my user account, I don't need it on my admin account. Well, it's a certain path to extinction. I think the dinosaurs forgot MFA as well. So, what I'm saying there is, we as admins remove as much privileges as we can, use PIM, use privileged access workstations or secure access workstations. Do not use your admin account on your local device. From the Microsoft Intune team, you have ready-made templates for secure access workstations in Azure, managed by Intune if you so like. They're ready-made. It's a running one script, which you find here, and you can set those up straight away. Only using your admin credentials on these devices and nowhere else. That's how I do it. I have one virtual machine per customer. I don't even run my own Binder Tech accounts in the same machine as I run my user credentials on. I always separate everything. But we need to be role models for our organizations. The control of a large force is the same principle as the control of a few men. It is merely a question of dividing up their numbers. We can't do everything on our own. And we need to cooperate. Let administrators do their security work in a team rather than doing everything on your own. This also, of course, goes back to security and automation. Do use role-based access control. Every single system. That's the first you should set up. I've seen organizations, again, Microsoft Intune, where they don't realize what they give away when they give someone Intune service administration. If you give that role to someone within your tenant, you also give them control of every single Azure AD group you have. That's not a good way to do security. Therefore, just as water retains no constant shape, so in warfare there are not constant conditions. We need to adapt, but the attackers are equally good at adapting. In my opinion, you should, almost regardless of size, have some kind of more advanced endpoint detection and response capabilities. This is Defender for Endpoint. There are a couple of other ones. Please feel free to take whatever information you have here. I hope I'm defended enough. But I see this as one of the most valuable investments you can make. I spoke to an organization yesterday at the airport. Not that I found at the airport, but they called me. And they looked into buying a ridiculously expensive product to do some kind of spoofing of applications, basically virtualizing the application so that you couldn't inject code into it. And I was like, yeah, it's expensive. Invest that in something else, because you have 1 out of 10 attacks that probably you would be protected against. If you have an EDR, you will likely be protected against 5 or 6 or 7 of them without having a SOC. It's a much better investment. Respond. Possibly the most rewarding thing you can work on as a consultant. It's terrible to be on the attacked side. If you have been there, you know how hard it is and how everything just is getting drawn away under your feet. So we need to respond to cyber attacks one way or another. And the hard thing here as well, the best sword will rust when put in salt water. If we at any point take a step back and say, well, we haven't seen anything for a while, we can probably not invest as much in cybersecurity. You will fail. I guarantee. It's when we move back that we get attacked. So always try to train. Prepare your organization. Now the attack simulations within Microsoft 365 is available in E3 as well, some of them. So you can use these. They are not complete in terms of what they offer. There are possibly better solutions from third parties. But use something. Train your organization continuously. It's like when you do a backup. Do not forget to test the restore. Please, we have been talking about this for 30 years. Wait, no, I can't read it back. It's not good. Train on this. Do red teaming exercises. Keep your SOC on their toes. Keep your organizations aware of what's happening in the world around them. And use these if you don't purchase third-party solutions. But start here. They do not offer all the training capabilities of other tools, but they at least lets you know when your CEO clicks that phishing link for the 5th time. This is one of my favorites actually, because this is basically what I do with people that I don't like. If your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak, that he may grow arrogant. Do not try to fend back without knowing what you do. In Microsoft 365, and especially Defender for Identity, you have the concept, and this is very small, sorry for that. Well, it's Defender for Identity. That was a horrible picture, sorry for that. You can add honey token accounts, you can add your sensitive accounts here. Make the attacker fall under tripwires when they try to get in. If they already have attacked you, if they already are inside of your environment, do not act without knowing what you're doing. Better take a step back, don't do anything until you have a proper response plan. Because they will try and keep on working, and everything we can learn about the attacker makes it more likely for us to get back on them and get them out of our environment. I've been called an IT artist. It's something I actually kind of like, since I am an architect. I do this because I like creating beautiful IT solutions, because I do think that a IT solution can be beautiful. And the fighter and the artist abide by the same obligation code, which specifies that each day the fight has to be waged again. Things change. Every single day is a new fight. And within the threat analytics part of Defender for Endpoint, we can learn about what's happened tonight or yesterday, what's going to happen next week. It's an ongoing fight. 365 days every year. The attackers do not take time off. So we need to also have a team that's dedicated to this. We may need to invest in having people looking at our detection every single day. Because if our SOC doesn't work weekends, the attackers sure do. So to summarize, we need to act now, not tomorrow. Go home, look at the licenses you have, either internally or talk to a consultant, see what can we do to improve our defense, our detection, and our response. You don't want to be the person standing in front of your leadership team and saying, yeah, we could have avoided this by using the product we have had licenses for 2 years. I've seen organizations in those conversations usually leads to people getting fired. But leadership also matters. It doesn't matter, and I'm sorry to tell you, if you can talk to your organizations all day long. If your leaders doesn't realize that they need to invest in cybersecurity, I would suggest that you change company. Because the likelihood of that company going bankrupt due to a cyber attack increases every single day you don't invest in cybersecurity. And at the end of the day, it's up to you, not someone. It's very common, especially in Sweden, that they say, yeah, someone will take care of that. I've never met someone. It's up to each and every individual in this room and inside of our organizations to take personal responsibility. It's even if you go to, I don't even know the translation of that into English, but the government agency in Sweden, which is supposed to take care of us in times of crisis, they have actually done a fairly good job during the last 18 months. They even say in their trainings that it's up to each citizen of a country to take personal responsibility of the cybersecurity and the national sovereignty. So it's not up to someone, it's up to us and each and every individual in this room. But there is still hope amid the confusion. We are in a state of confusion currently. Everyone is now trying to desperately recover from what we've been through over the last couple of months. Look at what you've done to make this working from home situation actually work. Look at it with the cybersecurity eyes and say, is this secure enough for the continuation of time? Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for being here. I'm so happy to be in a room with actual humans again. A lot of someones. If you have any questions, please feel free to come up to me after the session so we can get the next speaker on board. And I'm happy to answer anything I can. There are still wristbands if you like them, and I wish you a fantastic rest of the day and a fantastic rest of the conference. Thank you.